Make sure we don't do LinkedIn anymore. Hey guys, hi everyone. Sorry that we're coming on 2 minutes late. I think we're having issues out with LinkedIn somewhere. We're gonna get that fixed somehow, but that's a side issue. We're mostly on Facebook. But thank you to everybody for tuning in for another episode of uh, TATT Talk. And so my name is Roedy Ruben Geraro. I am your host for TATT Talks. And I have with us today Rebecca Daré. Am I saying that correctly?
Daré, yes.
Okay, Daré,
Yeah.
from Nigeria. And she has been a proud supporter of the African think tank. She came to our recent in-person mixer, which was just this past Thursday. We have another one at the last Thursday of August. She was able to present because it was our um, Pitch Thursday event. And so there's a number of companies or individual entrepreneurs who come together and we give them time to pitch their vision. And we have um, judges who will give feedback. And so she was one of our entrepreneur participants. So I'll give her an opportunity to share that whole experience. But then what she presented, um, I don't want to go too fast, but I'll let her speak to what she presented and how she unpacked it in the passion and the catalyst she has for it and what it means in the greater picture. We talked a couple of days ago, actually yesterday, more um, about her approach or philosophy to the entrepreneurial space and mission that she's in, and it was phenomenal. And I want her to be able to share that. Again, if you have any questions, please post your questions now because we can have them up there so that we can. I know you may have to hear more to have an idea, but if you have questions along the way, please post them. I don't want to wait till the end to take questions. So, Rebecca, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be
I
here.
appreciate you being here. It's a pleasure to finally connect. I know after there's a few back and forth, we were able to connect, and it was great to see you at the African Think Tank Pitch Thursday event. And and I'm glad you had an opportunity to share with the participants the work of the reflective human, as you can see in the background they have there. So I want to start off. Introduce yourself. Who you are, where you're from, where did your story start? And that's very important to us. To like we said, some immigrants tend to start, oh, when I first set foot in the West. So, but no, you had an entire life before
For that.
before anything you did here. And so let's start there, Rebecca.
So hi everybody. My name is Rebecca Daré. As said, I like to say that I am a wife, a mother, a sister, an aunt, a citizen. We're all more than one thing, and we all have different parts of us that make the whole. I am Nigerian. I was born in Lagos and grew up in a small town called Calabar in the south of Nigeria. I basically did all my schooling over there, and after my university, went to another town called Port Harcourt for my National Youth Service.
I know for hardcore.
Yes, that was where I met my husband, and we have two beautiful, wonderful boys today. I always used to tell myself, we would hear those horror stories of Nigerians who have gone abroad and they have been relegated to either menial jobs and things like that. And I always used to tell myself that will never be me. I will not travel abroad. But here I am today. Circumstances happen. And the one thing that used to scare me about it was just, I guess I had the philosophy of rule in hell rather than serve in heaven, was my take
Mm,
on it.
rule in
So,
hell rather than serve in heaven.
yes. So,
Okay, you got some. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Go.
even
Go.
if my
Go.
country was not the very best, it's still mine, that I would rather be there and deal with it than have to come here and be, live under the, underneath the law. And well, when my husband and I eventually we put in for the visa lottery, and we won. So knowing that we're going to be here legally just made things a whole lot better. That we did not have to come and be under citizens in this country. So we moved to the United States December 1, actually, of 2008, right in the heart of the economic meltdown. So it was a pretty tough time to be new in a new country, but
Mhm.
we were able to make it work.
Yeah.
We moved around quite a little bit for work and school, lived in several states and cities from Florida to Mississippi to Washington State. We're in Seattle, we're in East Wenatchee, we're in Wenatchee, and then we moved to Texas, where we decided to plant some roots so the boys could go to school. So
And
it
you know,
has been,
I sorry to cut you. I lived in Seattle. I lived in SeaTac. So when you fly
yeah,
in, and
yes,
I went to Green River Community College in Auburn. And so when you
wow.
mentioned the things like, oh, so yeah, the Pacific
Yeah, we were in
Northwest, yeah, it's
Shoreline.
beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And I went to Puget Sound, yeah, Seattle.
yes,
So any
yeah.
Seattle folks, welcome. Tell your people about the African think tank. Tell them about the Rebecca Daré and the reflective human. Sorry, I just had to interject. So go ahead.
Yeah, so it's been a fun experience. We're in Texas now. I love the weather. That's the reason why we moved to Texas, or to Dallas specifically. I've always said that I really hate the cold, so I never complain about how hot it gets. So even if it's 110 degrees, I'm cool with it.
Hmm. 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 Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that was well. Tell us one thing about Nigeria that you really enjoyed from from your time there. Something that you miss, and you make it back often home.
I've only gone twice in the, I guess, 16 years that I've been here. Last
Hmm.
year being the most recent one. What I miss the most about Nigeria is my friends, schoolmates
Mm.
that we grew up with together. You have special kinds of memory with those friends that you tend to lose when everyone's separated and gone their different ways. So even
Yeah.
while we were there in Nigeria last year, it was just so much fun to connect with, my old classmates. I got to see
Mm.
my chief bridesmaid again,
Mm.
and it was just that is what I miss the most. Just being able
Mm.
to be with people who know you from where you come from.
Mm. Yo, wow. So that's right. I agree with that.
That's how sad.
Yeah, outside, yeah.
Yeah.
I just say because I love it anyway. Yeah, I think you're right. I think sometimes our journeys, no, definitely our journeys to the West or wherever outside of Africa for most of it's for economic prosperity.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, and then it takes us away from our cultural um, aspects that are important to us, and we try to do the best we can in other lands.
Yeah.
How are your kids affected by this? Have they ever been able to go back? And if not, how do you maintain some cultural connections with them?
I would say it's been hard maintaining those cultural connections, for sure. But they were also in Nigeria. They were very stoic boys, I would say, and they took in all of the beauty and the chaos and everything that came with it with a straight face. And I gave them kudos for it. But it was
That's
kind
good.
of fun for them to see all of their cousins and aunts and uncles that they had not met before. Unfortunately, grandma had been in poor health, so they got the opportunity to connect with her again and to see her in person, and that was kind of lovely. Just having the whole family together.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm. That's good. That's good. I think with our the African Think Tank Cultural Bridge Program, that's one of the things we're working hard is how the next generation
yeah.
um, loses touch, and it's not any fault of anybody's. It's just that you're here,
It's
and
just the
life
fact that we're
happens
here.
here.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the
I
Western.
did
Yeah.
consider the culture bridge, but my kids are
Hmm.
17 and 16, so they're kind of outside that
Yeah.
window of what the culture bridge does. But definitely there is something,
Oh,
that
it's
is
coming. Don't worry. See,
that would
Denise
be
working on
awesome.
that because we want to cover the gamut from our young people
Yeah.
to even us. Because one of the things, and I bring this point up, is that we can blame Westerners of the ignorance of Africa, but the ignorance of Africans about Africa is astounding as well. And
Yes.
so, it's a big continent, 54 countries, but we are still called to learn heavily about all of it, our history and the different nationalities. And that's one of the things I like learning. I just don't want to say Burkina Faso, but I want to learn about, Thomas Sankara. Or when we talk
Yeah.
about South Africa, yes, we know Nelson Mandela, but how about Robert Sobukwe, and Stephen Biko, and you look at Mozambique. And so you have all of these historical contexts that play together. So that's just my passion. But also I challenge Africans, like, how much do you know about the continent? Like recent thing with Liberia. I don't know. Yeah, I speak English in Liberia, but the connection of Liberia to the United States, what is
States.
the
Yeah.
historical context?
Yeah.
And I'm sure some Africans don't know that, right? So,
Correct.
um, yeah, so that's we look at our cultural bridge covers again the smaller, what I think 6 to 12 year olds, but we're having something for older and as well as adults coming down the road, as well. Um, so let's just jump in. I want to jump into the reflective human promoting critical thinking and practical problem solving. I think once we cover that, we'll be able to weave in your definitely a personal story and your words of encouragement, touching on key areas of importance for you, and then what has the direct connection to the African diaspora and the African continent. Because I know in the long run, your main audience, because I think it still be for everybody, is Africans and maybe Nigerians in particular. So correct me if I'm wrong, but talk a little bit about what was the pitch Thursday, the African think tank. What was that for you? What was a life experience? And then talk about the reflective human. So we'll put that all together so I can give you the floor on that.
So it was a good experience for me to pitch at the um, think tank. It was an opportunity to bring to a wider audience the work that the reflective human is doing, and especially the book Something to Believe in. I know that a lot of, and it's always a sensitive point. We know the book itself says religious surrender and the persistence of magical thinking. That
Mm,
does, as Africans, tends to give us a little pause, like, what are you talking about? But
yeah.
it is what we do need to talk about for us to begin to learn just social problem solving, which is a skill that we greatly lack currently as Africans. The magical thinking aspect of it there is just leaning on superstition or waiting on miracles to happen.
Mm,
And the sooner we tend to break through that and focus more on practical problem solving, I think the better for us to move out of the slum that Africa
mm,
seems to be in right now, into just to tap into its possibilities.
mm,
So I started the Reflective Human, and this has been a project that has been going on for, and including the book as well, hand in hand for over 8 years now. And I've been writing that book, the Something to Believe, for over 8 years of research is what I packed into the book.
yeah.
Um, just seeing um, when you go on YouTube or even Facebook, I find it personal when I see Africans being led in the name of religion to do all kinds of weird stuff, eat grass, lay on the ground to be stepped on. And of course, there's always the money aspect of it, where people are tricked into tithing or contributing everything that they have. They go home and they are living off of prayers. There's no food for them because they have donated all of their money to the church, and they're hoping that God will bless them because that's a seed
Mhm.
that they have sown. And so I started working on the reflective human, and also just trying to teach my kids as well that being a good person is something that we should all strive to do, regardless of if there is a reward for you after you die, or that if you don't do something nice, then there is an eternal pit somewhere where you're going to burn in hell forever. Be good
Mhm.
because it's the right thing to do. And
Mhm.
so, in moments when I call them teachable moments, obviously, when something happens and I'm trying to tell my kids this is the better way to do, or this is how you should have done something, tends to take away that fun from whatever experience we're having. So, as a business process manager and as well as a learning professional, I started developing this life skills modules, because that was also what I used to do, teach modules on they call them soft skills in the professional world. But I
Mhm.
believe that these are skills that we all need to be able to survive,
Mhm.
essentially, as human beings. Just we
Mhm.
started taking different topics, cultivating media literacy, self-reflection, mindfulness, dealing with fears, dealing with loss, just the value of community, just the different
Mhm.
topics. I started putting all of that together. And
Mhm.
so once we had those weekly conversations, and each of them will come with prompts,
Mhm.
reflective prompts, where you are supposed to go back and take a look at those prompts and answer those questions as honestly and as straightforward as possible, without judgment, without fear of
Mhm.
external um, outlook,
Mhm.
and see it's kind of the best way for you to attain self awareness, so you
Mhm.
know who you are, what you are, and you also get that awareness of what how other people view you. And
So
so
let
mhm,
let me interject here before we get any further, because we talked about this. Most Africans are religious
yes,
in nature. You grow up in that, a belief in God, a belief in Allah, Muhammad, and Jesus, or other religious faiths.
yeah,
And so you you're challenging that status quo
yes,
in a way. And no, you're challenging the status quo, not in a way. You're challenging it head on. You're like, you know what? We are taking this on.
yeah.
So speak to how that journey has been. And I think you mentioned this brief story when you were 17 about that might have been the first inkling of I need to challenge this particular longstanding belief, and I'm going to do it, or that thing stuck with you for many years and it really incorporated. So speak about that incident and also about how the skepticism, no, the pushback that you receive because of the position you take in the
So
African context.
I would actually say that my skepticism started earlier, before I was 17.
Mhm.
There was a friend of my sister's. She's unfortunately late now, and she too eventually, towards the end, had to go through a lot of struggle.
Mhm.
At I was probably maybe around 12, 11, 12, 13, right about that time. And she was sitting outside my house with my older sister, and they were talking. For whatever it was she was also experiencing, she, uttered the words, I hate the word hope. I think it makes
Mhm.
people lazy. I don't believe in hope. I
Mhm.
turned that thing in my head for a very long time. And it also kind of shaped the way I view hope as well.
Mhm.
And so, all through my secondary school, that was when we had that um, the rise of the mega churches, of
Mhm.
the Pentecostal churches. And you would see and I mentioned this in the book as well, how we gradually devolved into excessive religiosity. Everybody wanted to be born again. Everybody wanted to be a pastor, a deacon, or a reverend or something. But that was kind of where everyone was tracking to. So by the time I was done with university, I was also, by the time I was done with secondary school, I was already really skeptical about how, I view religion. So there was
Mhm.
this lady I used to work for, brilliant lady, while I was in college, I was also working for her. And there was some project that she had been working on, and she was sitting with her pastor. And it didn't quite pan out the way she expected it to. And the pastor was like, "Oh, look at you here. This is not the will of God. And that's the reason why. You just have to, you're hitting your head against the wall. Just let it go because God does not want you to do that." And in my head, I said, there are other ways that she could have made what she wanted to do come to
Yeah.
fruition. She didn't have to give up because she had
Mhm.
been told this is the will of God.
Mhm.
And that was the another thing that kind of shaped how I view our religious submission and how we
Mhm.
let go of things because we have been told it's not by our power, it's not by our might. We should surrender our intellect, we should surrender our will, and God will take care of all of it for us. I
Mhm.
always say it's okay to have faith, it's okay to have hope, but what we have currently in Nigeria, and if you look at it in the continent of Africa, there is no application of intellect in how
Mhm.
we engage with our faith, with
Mhm.
hope. And
Mhm.
the whole point of the reflective human and the book Something to Believe in is for us to begin to pivot, to change how we approach problem solving and learn to be a little more intentional, that
Mhm.
maybe our outcomes, will be
Mhm.
better.
And that word pivot seems to keep coming up. Pivot. So you're all these pivots. So shout out to Andrea and her pivot book. So she's got people pivoting all over the place. But anyway, no, it's and that's why I think it's captivating when it says something to believe in religious surrender. So you're not asking people to give up their faith. You're just asking them to pivot and look at their human capacity of of
What
what
their
they're able to do,
intellect can actually
intellect,
achieve. Yes.
and not just falling down. What do you say of these? If it's God's will, or us just not falling on those as the answer to everything,
Yes.
right? Since they could have just maybe shifted and does things differently. Um, so so continue sharing how you looked at the reflective human as something that can change the face or approach or mindset of Africans.
So if you go into any professional environments, corporate
Mhm.
environments, you
Mhm.
would have learnings that is being provided. They call
Mm.
them soft skills,
Self-healed. Okay.
communication, listening skills, things like that. So as a learner, that's what they're called, the people who develop those soft skills, which I was a part of. I looked at where I come from. And as a throwback to my not wanting to leave Nigeria as a young person, which means that my heart always still stays there. That I'm hoping that someday I'm able to return there. But when you
Yeah.
look at year on year, how things continue to get worse,
Mhm.
while I want to go back, I want to be able to go back to a sane society. So, what can I do? The question I asked myself, to be able to inject a bit of sanity into that system. And that was where the work for Something to Believe in also started. How do you speak to Nigerians in as polite and in as blunt a way as possible
Hmm.
to help them begin to, again, the word pivot from
Mhm.
what we do? Because every human index, development index that we have seen from when I started my research 8 years ago has gotten worse,
Mm.
which means that whatever it
Mm.
is we're doing right now is not working. And they tend to say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Mhm.
So if we have been praying, if we have been hoping for miracles, if we have been sitting and waiting and nothing is happening, instead it's getting worse. In the last 40 years
Mhm.
alone, the quality of life for the average Nigerian
Mm.
has seriously dipped, and there is no consensus on how we can actually start thinking through our problems to get out of it. We
Mm.
sit, we hope, we pray, we wait.
Mm. Mhm.
So we now need to learn to rise up. We now need to
Mhm.
learn to wise up. And that was where the something to believe in came in. So I take us through in the book
Yeah.
how we surrendered,
Okay.
how it all started. So a little foray into the
Give us
past.
the meat. Give us the meat here, Rebecca. What is it? What are you've been turning this soup around? What is
Yeah.
the combine or sink our teeth into? Yeah.
So I walk us through the past, and
Mm.
of course, so it's not too technical or too, because I had to go through a lot of history books,
Yeah.
and try to simplify the language as much as possible so we don't get
Mm.
lost in the weeds, because
It's good.
history can be boring, and that's the
Mm.
honest truth. So how to make that as simple, as straightforward as possible, and engaging as well, to be able to um, understand where our path came from. That Nigeria as a country did not start in 1960.
Mhm.
We had very robust cultures, kingdoms, every single one of us. And we
Mhm.
cannot lose sight of that.
Mhm.
And the second part of the book takes us through why we still are here where we are.
Mm.
And one of the major things is followership. So we have, I have a subheading there that talks about ownership and followership.
Followership. Yeah.
When you have no um, sense of ownership, you can't make the rules, you don't control it.
Huh.
Whoever owns it tells you what to do,
Mm.
and you are subject to those rules. And
Yeah.
that is what most of us are as
Mm.
Christians, as Muslims. We just follow the rules because we it's not our original story. We didn't make the rules, and each and every one of those tenets of those religions that we follow were created, written by our fellow men.
Mm.
And those who feel a sense of ownership, take Christianity for example. It started out as a Middle Eastern religion, followership of a prophet. It got inculcated into the European system, where the brown Middle Eastern Jesus became a blonde, blue eyed guy.
Mm.
The people who wrote the in the Nicene conference are all a bunch of Europeans who tell us pray this number of times, say this prayer like this, and all each of those rules have been adjusted and changed as modern life has become, as
Mhm.
the world has become a much global society, as more things have been more acceptable. Um, a lot of the rules that were hard and fast before have been relaxed by the same owners. And they write this edict and they send it over to us, and we just
Mm.
follow because we don't own those systems.
Mm.
If we owned those, we are able to make those decisions for ourselves. But that is something also that was taken away from us, because
Mhm.
when they told us you have to be Muslim or you have to be Christian, they told us our ancestors were cursed. They're terrible, they're evil, they're bad, you know? And so we're ashamed to associate with our background.
Mhm.
And we talked earlier about the cultural bridge. And
Yeah.
it's a shame that even kids in Africa, even myself, here, I could not tell you the full story of my culture, of my
Mhm.
background, or where I come from,
Mhm.
because we have been unfettered
Mhm.
from our culture because of religion. We have abandoned where we come from because we are struggling really hard to align ourselves with prophets from the Middle East.
Mhm. So I think as you're talking, there's a lot of reflecting back on where did things come from to get us into the situation we're in. So there's a lot of unpacking. Could I
To
use
do.
that term? Say, okay,
Yes.
this to understand where you are now, you have to see where it came from, and then you can begin to make a shift or have enough information to envision something different or to unshackle ideas that you once had. And that's what I'm understanding. The Because you have the historical context in your book. Um, is that correct?
Yes.
Like
So,
looking back
and
at
you
the
would,
past.
yes, and you would know that a lot of us will have different, like the entire continent of Africa, first of all, and then, of course, the individual cultures that we come from as well. Our experiences will be a little bit different, but we all have that background of where we are coming from. The way I put it is, we have some of our ancestors as well who were sold off as slaves. They live in America today, they live in the Caribbean, they're all over the world today. And a lot of them try to go back to find out about where they came from. But some of them, just because of the way Africa itself is, it's a difficult thing for them to be able to do. And so
Hmm.
they are untethered from the continent itself. And the
Hmm.
crazy part of it, that even us who are there within the continent, or who were there within the continent, we're just as disconnected as those
Mm,
who were sold off into slavery.
mm, mm. Well, let me ask this question because it
Yes.
seems people want an answer to it. And I knew my girl Sanyu was gonna come through. She's great. You got to connect. I was just talking to about connecting all you authors together because you
Yeah.
have such a genre of information, different things that you guys do, and it'd be good to have those discussions. But as you can
Yeah.
see, she asked, "Is Rebecca partnering with other entities on her project, or is this a solo mission?"
This cannot be a solo mission. I'm
Mhm.
definitely looking for sponsorships and partnerships. One of the aspects of the pitch, or maybe the core of the pitch that I had last Thursday, was um, trying to interject the divergent thinking into the Nigerian space, especially amongst the youth. Right now, we have one of the youngest population in the world. The average age for Nigeria, I think, is about 19. I don't know if it's crept up to 20 yet, because I haven't looked at statistics recently. But as the last time I checked, we're right around 18 to 19 median age, which is really low. And we cannot allow that population to grow to our age without injecting something to change it. So what I'm trying to do right now is seeking sponsorship to provide free copies of Something to Believe in
Mm,
to all college students, both
mm,
undergraduate and postgraduate students, free of charge.
okay.
That is a huge task. It's a huge project.
Okay.
Along with doing that is the seminars that we do on the reflective human, to begin to teach seminars on those soft skills or life skills, as we refer to them with the reflective human, to begin to have those seminars, teaching them how to be more intentional in their approach to life, teaching them how to ask those questions with those prompts that come in with the each of those topics within the reflective human itself, so that the fear of questioning what we have been taught would begin to break that boundary.
Mhm.
Because right now, we have built a kind of a fence around our possibilities. If you are having a conversation with a Nigerian, and there's certain things that and I think we, talked about it a little bit yesterday, where there's certain things that you have an aptitude for, or that you could be able to develop as a purpose in life, or that could even bring add value to your community or build the society around you. But you know, religion has told us that thing is evil, it's bad. Just by that alone, we put a barrier to the realm of our possibilities. I
Mm-hmm.
cannot go there because it's evil, it's bad, it is secular, it is, you know,
Mm-hmm.
sinful. And so,
Could you give us an example, maybe that you've encountered or somebody's encountered that reflects that perspective?
so I used this example of someone, and I did know someone who he had, I probably shouldn't have said the gender, but had a good nose for smells.
Mm.
Now, take a person like that who, and he also did chemistry. So you are totally in the line of where you are able to produce, you could be the next Lancome producing smells of cosmetics or perfumes and things like that. But let's assume that you belong to a congregation like, say, Deeper Life, where
Mm-hmm.
you're told that any kind of cosmetics that you utilize is sinful. It's from, we call them mami water. It's from mermaids in you know, in the ocean, and it's evil. It's from the devil. Don't associate with it. A person like that, you have already stopped whatever contribution that they are able to provide to themselves, to their community, as a way of making a name or finding a personal purpose for themselves. And we sit instead and wait for some miracle to be able to solve some of those issues, and while we,
Mm-hmm.
you know, put those barriers around what we could be achieving for ourselves within our
Mm-hmm.
communities. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think there's a lot of you could extrapolate a lot of lessons, but also a lot of people would experience those same situations where they're trying to be creatively thinking of things um, that could be neutral one way or the other, but because of either religious or cultural norms, is viewed as something negative,
A
and so it's not
taboo
even
or
pursued
something.
or
Yeah,
taboo, right?
you don't even go near it. Yeah.
Because I think Africans have faced those challenges. So how does the maybe the newer generation overcome that and bring the older generation along? But the older generation can still provide some moral compass in doing. I think you mentioned this a little bit earlier of doing things that are good, right? And for you is it like just good in of itself, right? In that respect. Um, oh, here's another question. In as much as I'd still like to hold on to my religious beliefs. I like what Rebecca is saying because people have really. Let me put this up here. Okay. I like what Rebecca is saying because people have really become enslaved by religious leaders, and it's kind of scary. If we can learn to question our religious leaders once in a while, I think these leaders will think twice before saying some of the things they
They
say.
say, for sure.
Uh, the what was this comment here from our sister? So, our girl on the rise. I don't. That may be something very
It's Nigerian.
Nigerian. I
It's
don't.
Nigerian
Not
slang.
Nigerian. So you may enlighten us on that. Um, can you talk about? So we're gonna, it's the religious component and all that's still gonna come in. But can you talk about one of the aspects because you said you break it down into two different sessions?
Yes.
And so, is there? Um, let's start with one key session that you think is important to get the message across that you should hear about.
I think if we want to look at healthy skepticism,
Mm-hmm.
it's something I believe everybody should have. So we have a module on cultivating healthy skepticism, which, if we understand how we engage with information that we are provided with, it gives us opportunity to be able to ask questions. And we do have some of those prompts. I try to make the questions on average about 10 different prompts. Have a
Mm-hmm.
journal ready so that when you're asking those, thinking through those questions, you're able to write them down. That's something that has helped me a lot to see even my own trajectory in growth. Some of the things that I wrote, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, I still have some of those journals that I open, and I'm like, oh my God, this was me a long time ago with my innocence or my simplicity of thought or something. So
Yeah,
going
yeah.
through each of those thoughts, as you put them down, you're able to ask those cogent questions. We know that within a lot of those are communities, religious communities. Questioning is not a thing that is generally
Yeah.
entertained. You have a question and it's very easy to get shut down. Just
Hmm.
believe, just take it. So this gives you that opportunity to ask those questions. And that's why it's a community that we're trying to build here, because my experience would be different. Your experience would be different. Let's say somebody is dealing with fears. The way I handle fears might be different from the way you handle fears. We have another class called Dealing with Fears.
Hmm.
If within that sphere, if we're going through some of the prompts that we have available, somebody has an experience, you're able to share within that community to say, hey, I was terrified of going outside for whatever reason. And there are people like that. And you're able to provide a sort of guidance or mentoring for that person who is experiencing something similar to what you're going through. We have another one on just money, the influence of money on our lives. So, not financial literacy, that's another topic. The extent to which we allow money to influence us.
Hmm.
Because if we look at, and it's largely across Africa as well, where the motivating factor is not to add value to your community, to build and grow it. It's how much is in it for me? What's the
Yeah,
money? And
yeah.
if there is none, the people quickly lose interest and move on,
Hmm.
and they're
Hmm.
looking for the next opportunity without having that understanding that as you're adding value to your community. We talked yesterday about the young man in your community who put together and repaired a borehole
Oh,
or
in
well.
Zambia. Yeah.
Okay, in
Yep.
Zambia, yes, and fixed the borehole
Hmm.
and started a little shop and grew it from
Hmm.
there. He saw a need within the society, within his community, and tried to solve it. In trying to solve that, he has brought a level of convenience to his community, and he has also found a way to financially empower himself. It's a
Hmm.
win-win situation.
Hmm. Yeah.
That is not something that we have learned or have been taught how to carry out in Nigeria. We just want to see how much money we can make out of this. If
Yeah.
we, even people who are in office, you have 1 million naira to carry out a project. You give people 100,000 and you pocket the remaining.
Mm, mm,
And
mm,
then, the people who also don't have too great of an expectation will say, at least he did such and
mm.
such, without knowing just how much they have been robbed.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. It actually ties into what James Oche. I really appreciate you guys asking questions. This really, gives her the opportunity to respond directly to our viewers. So what has your experience been engaging with Africans? Are folks generally willing to engage even when they don't agree with this view, or have they been rather aggressive or even shut it down and avoid the conversation altogether? Religion happens to be about the only identity for many, many Africans.
Yes, and I talk
Yeah.
about it in the book as well. How towards the early to mid '90s, how religion completely overtook everything, all other cultural engagements that we had.
Mm,
just totally shut down, and everything that we did was either in the church or in the mosque. So
mm,
to if it's on the surface, when we start talking about a lot of these issues, when we start talking about it, there is that initial, I don't
mm,
want to, you are attacking my religion. But once
mm,
we begin to talk about the merits of the reality of what we're facing, I start to get that is true. That is true. We do
mm,
need to do something. And this has happened 90% of the time. Yes, we
mm,
do need to do something. Yes, we do need a change. yes, what we're doing right now is not working. So there is always that bridge of, I don't want to talk about this, or I don't want to engage in this because it seems as if you're attacking my religion, my faith. But once we begin to see and talk about how we need a change, how we need to move from what we're doing right now, the magical thinking, and into critical thinking, I begin to get that, yes, you're right. Yes, it's
Hmm.
true. Yes, we do
Hmm.
need to do something about it. So that has been the experience.
And are those individuals taking advantage of what you're offering as far as courses? Because I think there's also things that Africans like will agree, but then we don't take the next step,
Correct.
right?
So there is a lot of direction that needs to happen.
Hmm.
And I do understand it, because even like I said, even in the corporate world, the reason why you don't just put the soft skills out there for employees to go take a look at by themselves, you have facilitators who walk you through those those lessons. It will require, and I don't put a blame on anybody for this one. It will require guidance, where we create that community of, this is a topic that we're talking about today. This is how we're going to go through it. Once people begin to learn, then they're able to, on their own, carry out reflective exercise by themselves. But that initial stage has to happen of teaching people actually how to do those reflections.
Hmm. And then how we talked about the challenges. I've been looking through. I'm not going to pick it, but what's the secondary thing that you think people should focus on, or you would like to bring the light to more attention to? Because you just talked about the
Healthy
healthy
skepticism.
skepticism. Is there
Yes.
another
Yes.
one that comes to mind?
Correct. Self reflection for self awareness.
Okay,
That
cultivating
is
self-reflection and self-awareness. Yep,
for
I
self
see it. Yep.
awareness. Yes.
Hmm.
So that is one of the topics that is very near and dear to me. A self aware person is a mindful person.
Mm,
And a mindful person is someone with emotional intelligence.
mm,
And if you are
mm,
able to
mm,
approach life
mm,
mindfully, it's a
mm,
lot easier for you to not be reactionary.
mm,
It's, and sometimes you would even see, or at least for me, people who have been engaged in mindfulness, or self-awareness, or even just humanistic exercises, when some of these topics come up, they are a little more, what's the word I'm looking for, gentle in their approach, as
mm,
opposed
mm,
to those who have not traditionally been involved in mindfulness trainings
mhm.
or self-reflection trainings, where there is that immediate defensive reaction, like no, attitude towards life. And this spreads across just about every um, thing that we experience. We
Mhm,
cannot control our day-to-day life,
mhm,
but if we are self-aware, if we are mindful, we are better prepared to face some of those things, and our reactions to those things are not as impulsive
yeah,
as someone who is not mindful, or
mhm,
who is not self-aware.
yeah. And I think John, sir, I don't want to butcher your last name, so I'm just going to call you John. Just thank you for talking about emotional intelligence. And I was thinking the same thing, because part of why the African think tank exists is the the founder really was thinking about the situation of the African community, and there was something missing.
Yeah.
If you and there should be a link to how she shares that something missing, though she was very successful. So she is very successful, but that success didn't feel the a
Complete.
burden she had or a mission she was looking, and that really was the catalyst to initiating the African think tank. And that's speaking to emotional intelligence really as well, because part of the work we do in the different venues or chapters and cultural bridge and the initiative started in Africa, is all part of cultural intelligence and emotional intelligence in
Yeah.
that way. So, would you like to unpack a little bit more about emotional intelligence?
So
Guys, we still
this
have about 8 minutes, so if you have questions, it'd be a good time to ask them.
so when we find ourselves in certain situations, the ability to manage how we react. I've
Mm,
always taught my kids that
mm,
you can't control people, what they do, what they
mm,
say,
mm,
how they behave, even around you. But there is one thing that you can control, and that's how you react, how you, what you say.
mm,
If you are not intentional, if you're not mindful, as you're given, you get that situation of an eye for an eye.
mm,
So if someone
mm,
yells, you're yelling right back, and everything escalates and it becomes terrible and bad, and you know, it's chaos.
mm.
But if we approach life mindfully, it's a lot easier for us to take that mental step back,
Mm,
for us to be able to stop, breathe, and say, you know what, my approach is different.
mhm,
How I'm going to face or interact with this whole situation, we come out just smarter
mhm,
in the things that we how we engage with society, within our
mm.
homes, within public spaces, within our professional spaces. And that is something I think we are kind of lacking. I'm trying to be delicate. We are kind of
Diplomatic?
lacking as a
Yeah.
diplomatic, as a people,
Yeah.
as Africans, and it's
Yeah.
something that we need to begin to focus on and teach the next generation so they don't end up in the same situation. It would be a terrible thing. Nigeria right now, I think our population has grown up to 200 million. It would be a travesty if we allow that to continue the way we're going right now.
Okay. All right. Here's another question. I think we can still get this question and one more question if it comes up quickly before we close. Again, from our sister Sanyu, is can you speak to the socioeconomic means of the communities you are being who are being misled by those aforementioned exploitive religious leaders? At times, poverty can impact the level of vulnerability and make certain communities more susceptible to predators.
Absolutely, and that is so true. The challenge here, and this is part of the larger project that I'm working on, and that's why I wanted to first of all focus on college students. There is not much within my sphere. We're still a very small nonprofit. Hopefully as we grow things will change, but part of the project that we're working on is to start with the college students, looking for those sponsors to be able to reach out to them. One of the reasons why we're providing the book at this moment for free. So they are not trying to decide, do I buy the book or do I have my lunch or dinner or
Mhm,
whatever other reading material that has been imposed on them by their
mhm,
college. So being able to do that at the minimum and start from there. We have a 5 and a 10 year plan for where we want to take this, and we're hoping that if everything tracks as it goes, and that's why we're looking for donations, so everybody on here now, we can go on the website at www.thereflectivehuman.com, pitch in a little bit, and so that we are able to make this happen. If we're
mhm,
able to grow the nonprofit, we certainly have certain um, goals that we want to achieve within some of these communities, that and starting even from the government itself. uh, African communities, governments don't understand the value of social safety nets,
mhm,
and that is something that the reflective human very strongly advocates, that if we have the ears of our government leaders today, that is one of the very first things that we're going to be pushing, for us to
mhm,
start instituting social safety nets within our community. It brings a level of peace of mind that
mhm.
allows us think, which is very difficult to do when you're thinking about your next meal.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, I think we have a lot of situations that we're just caught in these survival situations
Yeah.
because Americans are able to, in the West, are able to do a lot of things because there's leisure. So you think about things that the rest of the world's like, we don't have time to think about that because we're trying to get something to eat,
Yeah.
or to stay alive in that respect. All right, we have 3 minutes, so we're gonna start laying in the plane and closing it out. Um, how did you get connected with the African think tank? What has been your experience and your draw to the African think tank, and the work that we do? Does it have some connection with the reflective human? Uh, that's the book you're working on. Yeah. Oh,
So
you have.
we have been searching for, my husband and I, African groups.
Mm,
And for the most part, you would usually find that they are either Black professional groups. And if it's a Black lawyers, obviously I'm not a Black lawyer, so I can't be a part of
mm,
that group.
mm,
Or it would be a sorority of some sort. And if I didn't go to that college, obviously I can't be a part of it. And so every so often we would go online and search for, Black owned nonprofits that we can be a part of, because we do want to be able to contribute. We do want to give back in some way. We
mm,
want to collaborate as well. Even
mhm.
with the Reflective Human Project, all those were part of the motivating factor for us to be
Yeah.
here. And absolutely, honestly, when I see the African think tank, what comes to mind? I don't know if you've heard of the Heritage Foundation.
Hmm.
Um, if Sidoni is listening, I want you to get to that point of the Heritage Foundation. That is my dream for you,
Yeah. Mhm.
where you are able to impact policy, benevolent policies across Africa,
Yeah. Yeah.
and make a change, in the lives of people. That is where I want this think tank to go.
Hmm. No, that's good, and I think that's definitely in the works. There's so many moving parts that the African give kudos to the founder, the leadership around that. There's so many moving parts that are independently doing. So
Yeah,
I do the TAT talks, and there's other people, the cultural bridge, and all of that. But we balance each other out, and so most of the leadership has been well in doing that to move us into a space where we can be. We want to do the impact people's lives personally. So
yeah,
there's that direct contact that
contact,
change
yeah,
is made at that level, but also to impact, as you had mentioned, at the policy level. So it has a broader
broader
reach
reach, yeah,
to a good group of people. So to me, you have to sustain both of those, because
yes.
if you have a policy, but then individuals are not feeling it, then they're like, well, why do we want to be part of
What's
that?
the point?
But then it's a point. But if it's just, if there's, you need policy so you can reach a broader amount of individuals as well. So,
Because honestly,
oh,
there's only
yeah.
just so far you are able to go when it's individual. And
Hmm.
so just being able to make those larger influence, it's
Hmm.
obviously going to take time. It's sustained efforts, gradual growth. You cannot go from 0 to 1 million in
Hmm.
a year, but
Hmm.
just sustaining that growth and adding and seeing other ways, of making that change, and just not giving
Hmm.
up, and to continue to
Yeah.
move forward. Yeah.
Well, have you volunteered yet? Signed up to be volunteer with the African think
I
tank?
have so much going on. As you can see, I'm running this nonprofit almost
But
by
that's
myself, just me and my
But that's my
husband. So
point. Is like, if you volunteer, we can find a way to bring the reflective human or some of the thought processes into some of the things we're doing. I mean, there may be space for that, but again, I will let that lay where potential collaboration may be, because we're
it's
very
always open.
collaborative in the nature
Yeah.
of what we do at the think tank. Because, like you said before, we can't do it all, or we have
Yeah.
people out there already
Different
doing
things.
their
Yeah.
own initiatives that are very powerful. How can we empower them further, or how can they also be a
Contribute.
contribution to us?
Yeah.
So it's just, we can't live in these silos. And so I
Yeah.
think that's, I'm just encouraging. That's one of the things where we talk about volunteerism, because for us, volunteerism is just not coming with your, it's to come with your time, energy, and talents, but having the space within the think tank to still be able to do what you need to do,
Yeah.
that can be beneficial both ways. Of course, within, the contextual approach of what we do at TATS. But I'm just
Sure,
putting
all
that.
doors are open.
Mm,
I would not close the door to any opportunity. I have,
mm.
um, some other nonprofits that have
Yeah,
invited the Reflective Human to
yeah,
come give the seminars to their groups, and so definitely we will have opportunities like that. Keep
okay.
those open. Mhm.
Uh, all right. It happens with discussion. We'll end with this from Obatare. I hope I'm close. I only hope we Africans can heed to this wise counsel in terms of our ideology to have a better life.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to give you the last word. What is it that you want all who joined in, all who may be forwarding this to somebody else, people in Nigeria, people throughout Africa? Just take a minute to say, what would be your final message? And we will close it up.
I would say keep an open mind.
Mhm.
Grab a copy of the book. Right now on Amazon, it says sold out, but if you put in your order, it will get shipped out to you once we are done with shipping the other batch out. Go on the Reflective Human. I know, like I mentioned earlier, that it is a little difficult for you to start the modules on your own, but I have tried to make it as straightforward as possible. Go through the prompts, have a journal. And I know a lot of people usually assume that journaling is just for women or little girls, but it's not. We're
Mhm.
able to write down, people have done journals and written books out of their journals. So
Mhm.
have a
Mhm.
journal ready and
Yeah.
see how you can put down your answers to those prompts. Dig within yourself.
Mhm.
Share also the Reflective Human, and like how we started within my household. We would sit every Sunday and we'll take one of those topics and we will read through it. And each of us has the opportunity to share with those prompts. Do the
Mhm.
same if you are within a community. Take one of those modules and go through it and see how we can begin to make that change little by
Mhm.
little so that we can shake out of our stagnation.
Mhm.
And don't
Thank
forget to
you.
donate. Yes.
Yeah, and donate, guys. Donate. Get the book. Reach out to Rebecca.
Yes.
They
My
can find you
information
on.
is on the website, so you're
Yeah,
more than welcome to reach out to me.
yeah. I want to make sure. So, thank you for a lovely session. Very insightful, packed with inspirational words and motivation, backed by experience and knowledge. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining
Thank
us,
you.
Anika. Again, everyone, reach out. Again, thank you for joining the African Think Tank TAT Talks. We have some phenomenal guests as always for next week. I enjoyed talking to all my guests. I learned so much about them and people I've met personally. So join the African Think Tank. Go on there. We have some cool things that we are doing both throughout the U.S. and overseas. Again, thank you, and everybody have a great evening. All right.
Thank you. Bye,
All right.
everybody.
Bye.